Yeah, okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Tide Talks. Again, probably out on the fly, you probably heard, Tide Talks is just an event where we try to bring marine science to the broader community and outside of the marine lab. So here today we have lovely Keith Rittmaster of Bonehenge. Keith was born and raised in Princeton. He received a bachelor's in economics from Denison University and a master's in environmental management from Duke in 1981. Keith has worked as a marine mammal scientist on research projects in the Eastern Tropical Pacific Ocean, Cook Inlet, Alaska, Gulf of Mexico, and Northwest Atlantic Ocean. In 1985, Keith with colleagues began a long-term photo identification study of the bottlenose dolphins near Beaufort, North Carolina, to investigate residency, migration, associations, reproduction, and mortality. Keith also responds to reports of dead, dying, and entangled marine mammals as a part of the NC, or North Carolina, Marine Mammal Stranding Network in the region that is directed by his wife, Vicki Thayer. Keith and Vicki initiated the NC monofilament recovery and recycling program to address the conservation issue of protected marine wildlife becoming entangled in discarded fishing lines or nets. They also collect, study, prepare, and rearticulate cetacean skeletons for research, education, and display. For this work, the Bonehenge Whale Center was recently built by volunteers through a charitable nonprofit organization. Keith has also graciously welcomed many Duke student visits to Bonehenge and has been so lovely as to bring Bonehenge to Durham tonight.
Wow, that was one me out. Yay, thanks. I like to be called Keith, and I love questions. If I powered through this talk, I think it would be about 50 minutes. And I'm fine to do that, and I'll stay as long as anyone wants to answer questions or discuss things. But the other option is to invite you to ask questions during the talk. I'm leaning toward that because I think you're all smart, and I hope I don't abuse anyone's time if we go over an hour. Okay. We got this. It worked in the lab. Wait.
Is it not moving?
Huh?
Do you want me to come down and press slides?
No, you don't need to do a thing. Nope, user error. You got to put the receiver in. Works.
Get out. I swear I didn't break it.
Oh, I can blame you. I totally forgot. I can blame you.
Because I touched it.
Oh, get it. You fixed it. Let's just say you fixed it.
Yeah, sure.
If your phone makes any noise during this talk, you're going to be ridiculed. You have to make a $10 donation to Bonehenge. Good time to silence your phone. Really, I do that for me to make sure I silence mine. There you go. Okay. So in the next 50 minutes or so, I'm going to try to cover some aspects of all these things as it relates to whales in North Carolina. I'm going to start with the Whales and Whaling Symposium just for a sec, because I want to highlight a couple things about this. It's going to be at Fort Bacon. It's March 21st. It's an all-day event with display items. And this year, it's women-focused. All women presenters about women's issues related to whales. Women researchers, women in whaling. And so I just wanted to share that with you. I'm going to throw up a QR code in a sec, so if you wanted to learn about this and go to the website, you can get your camera out and get the QR code. I'm not going to go into any details. This just highlights the presenters, medieval whaling, women in the whaling industry. The last talk is an update from the aerial survey team, who is every pretty day flying off North Carolina looking for, identifying, counting whales. So I'm super excited about this whaling symposium. And if you want to learn more or possibly attend, that's a QR code that has the information about it. Anyone going to confirm with me that it looks like it works? Oh, good. Okay. So this poster represents all the species known to science of whales, dolphins, and porpoises on Earth as of about 7 years ago when this was printed. And there's been a few changes, but we're just going to go with this for now. On this poster, collectively they're called cetacea. It's a taxonomic term. I may call them cetaceans. On this poster, all the baleen whales are facing away from me, and all the toothed whales are facing toward me. Those are the two major groups. I just passed around some baleen. I hope you all had a chance to handle it. That's from a humpback whale. This is a humpback whale. Of course, it's a baleen whale. Great whales, which are off our coast now, extremely endangered as a baleen whale. Quiz. The biggest animal on Earth is a blue whale. Here's a fun fact. The biggest animal on Earth is a girl, because in baleen whales, girls are bigger than boys. In toothed whales, it goes both ways. And in some cases, it's really not even known what sex is bigger. But anyway, I've just thrown up a picture of a humpback whale feeding, showing the baleen in the upper jaw. They lack teeth, and they have no baleen in the lower jaw and no teeth. And inside the lower jaw and throat, in this humpback whale's case, is literally tons of water and terrified fish. But that's how they feed. And they feed on small schooling fish, a pretty big variety in the case of humpback whales. And then to exemplify toothed whales, I show you the toothy grin of a wild bottlenose dolphin. Back to our poster. So I'm going to present to you like the oh wow of my career. I'm going to put a green dot on all of the species that we have documented in North Carolina of the toothed whales. And that's it. I'm going to take those dots away and put a green dot on all of the baleen species that we have documented in North Carolina. And that's it. I'm going to put it all together. It's going to get pretty messy, and that's kind of my point. That diversity, 35 species, I'm not bragging. This isn't competition. That's more than any other state. I am working hard to prove me wrong, and I would love to prove me wrong. We don't have the best biologists or the stranding network. Some people might argue otherwise, but anyway, for argument's sake, we don't have anything close to the biggest coastline, but we've been able to document this incredible diversity that's not been documented anywhere else in this country. And I want people to realize this, because as we consider how to use the resources, whether it's military training or wind or oil or fishing, we have a lot to lose. And for a lot of these species, we don't know much about. Most of what we know from a lot of them are from strandings, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a second. Off the coast, I just want to point a couple features out. I've highlighted the 3 capes prominent in North Carolina that sort of defines our coastline. And on the East Coast, there's an intercontinental shelf edge. These dark areas are steep drop-offs. And then an outer continental shelf edge. And they both seem to host unique species of fish, birds, mammals, we're learning. Where do those 2 shelf edges come together close to land? Right off North Carolina. And I think that contributes to the diversity we've been able to document. The next slide is going to be the same water, same land, just sea surface temperature. Red being warm and blue being cool. And that's it. And you might have heard of the Gulf Stream, bringing warm tropical oil up the coast. You might have heard of the Labrador Current. And this is Labrador Current Extension, or some people call it Virginia Current. But where does that warm water meet the cold water off, close to shore? Again, North Carolina. And I think as a result of this, and I've got to say, reasons we also don't understand, but I think this contributes to some of the diversity. As a result, we have the northern limit of some southern species and the southern limit of some northern species. I guess I shouldn't be surprised if I talk to a botanist, they'll say, oh yeah, Keith, North Carolina's plant life is really off the charts, and amphibians and reptiles too. But we're just discovering it with marine mammals. We're a little slow in the game. This is a right whale mom and calf I photographed in Beaufort Inlet. Super exciting, very endangered. The mom is swimming away from me. Those are her blowholes. Her newborn, weeks old, is swimming toward me. Blowholes there-ish. Lower jaw arching above the upper jaw. And they have this feature on their heads. They're infested rough patches of skin. They're called callosities. That's the word. And those callosities on the heads and jaws of right whales are enduring enough over time and unique enough per individual that we can actually identify individual. It's a process called photo ID. And they develop these callosities within the first year of life while they're still with mom. So when they're weaned and leave mom, we could actually keep track of the individual calf. So this was super exciting because the people studying right whales told me, yeah, that's Mono, and she left Florida 3 weeks ago and she didn't have a calf with her. And she was photographed in Georgia and she didn't have a calf with her. So this might be like a northernmost, at the time, birth of a right whale. Why does that matter? I mean, it was exciting to me, but I mean, could they be giving birth in North Carolina? Well, if they are, that becomes like critical habitat for protecting right whales. And it's things like this, where something like photo ID, as simple and non-invasive as photo ID, can really contribute to conservation. Yes,
Do you know what might have driven her to come this far northernward? Because I know a lot.
That's a
of
great question.
animals
you look familiar. Have you been to Bonehenge?
Have not.
Okay, all right. So the question for the Zoom audience is why she would come this far north to give birth, and I don't know if anyone can answer that. I certainly can't. But this migration, northern Florida, Georgia, to give birth and up north to feed, that's very predictable and well documented. They may have been doing it all along. It wasn't until 3 years ago we had these aerial surveys off North Carolina that's actually teaching us about a lot about them. The short answer, I don't know, but thanks for asking. This is one of the major causes of death, and I'm not going to really go into this. To me, it's just too depressing. It's a mom who was entangled, and she was lethally entangled, and people were pretty sure she wasn't going to give birth, and she gave birth, and she was seen with her newborn. Then she was seen without her newborn, and the newborn was presumed dead, and then she wasn't seen again, so she's presumed dead. It's a horrible entanglement, and if you do a internet search for snow cone, you'll get a cool, refreshing treat. But if you do a search for snow cone right whale, you'll hear all about the story and the people who are trying to understand entanglement, how to prevent it, and how to disentangle whales. We're very focused on this. We don't have many success stories. We do have some. Too much information here. This is something NOAA just produced. I'm very grateful and proud of them for doing this. It's on the web, and it just highlights a few things. I just want to point a couple out. This is the approximate population size of North Atlantic right whales. And this is all there are on Earth. And as of a year ago or 2 years ago, the best estimate was about 350 whales or 370 whales. And this is how many are born in the population each year. How do we know? Because these aerial survey teams are looking and counting. And so there's not much hope for optimism except this, and it really gives me goosebumps to be able to tell you this. I can tell you with confidence that in the last 12 months, or the last breeding season, 20 new borns were produced by this remnant population. And that's huge to me. It's probably not enough, but it's more than 12 the previous year. So that's 12. That's 20. Sadly, 2 of those newborns are dead, well documented. I think they're both boat strike victims. But so we're really waiting to get the report of what 2025 is going to bring us. And it's a nail biter every year for this species. They look like badasses, but they're really nice. This is the aerial survey team. This is the last presenter at the Whaling Symposium. These are the 3 women, and their 2 pilots also that are in the air every pretty day, looking for primarily right whales, but other large whales as well. And today, a live sperm whale stranded on Coquina Beach. And so it was a neonate, no erupted teeth, newborn. And it was reported Stranding Network, and so we asked, my wife asked the team, please look for an adult. The mom. And it's off of Coquina Beach, and you might see the mom, but it was too windy, so they weren't flying today. But anyway. That infographic about right whales is this, in case you were interested. Yes,
When they're flying, are they just using binoculars to find whales? Or is there any?
naked eye and binoculars,
That's it. So
predicted transects, right? If I see them in my boat, I alert them. Sometimes they've already seen them, sometimes they haven't. If we get a report of a live entangled one, we will alert them. And then they will find it where I can get to it. Why do I get to it? I want to document the entanglement, maybe launch a rescue. Thanks for asking. Yeah, any other questions? Yes.
On the infographic where it said unusual mortality event, is that right whale specific, or is that like what's going on like over the whole coast? And then
This
additionally,
one,
like,
in this case, this is right whale specific, so you know about this, and this is, yes. Go ahead.
well, I'm from like New Jersey.
Yes.
With like there's a lot of controversy with offshore winds and.
That was a nice way to put it.
Yeah, but then if this is right whale specific, why didn't they designate it starting in like 2015 based on this?
Oh, tell me, all right, so now you're gonna really make me dig deep into here.
Like just 2 years before when, because it looks like there's.
This is right whale specific, and you're saying that should cover 2015?
Just visually, like. it
No.
looks like-
It's not that simple. What
Okay.
determines an unusual mortality event is more complicated than that.
Okay, okay.
It's not just because a bunch stranded.
Mhm.
It's gotta be more than usual and some other criteria. And it's a terminology that's dictated in the Marine Mammal Protection Act, and really, I don't really understand completely.
Okay.
But this is the case for right whales. And so your point is,
I was just saying, it looks like there's a lot of deaths in those years, but I don't know what the definition.
Yeah.
So that's interesting to know that it's in the Marine Mammal Protection.
yeah, I think that terminology was in the Marine Mammal Protection Act.
Okay.
They have to designate it. And yeah, thanks. My answer wasn't very good, but yes.
What types of vessels are like the most common strikes coming from? Like, are they like large like, container ships, or are they like smaller private?
That's a great question. What types of vessels are hitting the whales? Is that?
Yeah,
Yeah, short answer, all of them. Well, probably over 35 feet. As small as 35 feet have been documented to kill a whale. Truth is, a lot of them don't get reported. If they're reported, they're rarely investigated. If they're investigated, a necropsy is kind of rare. And you think it's possible that a ship could hit a large whale like a right whale and not know it? If that is possible, we really have no clue how bad the problem is globally. And that's why I can't give a good answer to that one. Yeah, yes,
Just not to get off topic here, I'm also from New Jersey, so I was.
so I am too. I'm from
Okay.
Princeton, so you can say whatever you want about New Jersey.
Okay, I'm from the Jersey Shore actually, so I was,
Long Beach Island was my beat.
oh yeah, I'm from like Lavalette area, yeah.
We'll go in there later.
Yeah. I just wanted, I was listening to a podcast, and they were talking about the offshore wind. It was from more of a bioacoustic standpoint, but they were saying it's like the actual, I guess, effect of them installing the, I guess, the offshore wind, like that's a very short-term thing. And people were, I guess, the podcast was about like bioacoustics, so they were saying that like the couple hours that they were installing it not actually having an effect. So their whole kind of things, they were like debunking almost, like that was having an effect on the whale populations. What's your opinion on that? Do you feel that it was?
No, that sounds pretty accurate. The question or comment was about offshore wind and bioacousticians, saying that the seismic used to place the pedestals might not, or there's no evidence that it's killing whales. That makes sense to me. I've worked on these gunboats that create the sound to map the bottom. And it's seismic explosions. I'm dynamite on land, air guns in the water. Searching for oil is more noise more frequently because they want to penetrate deep into the earth crust and map what might be potential pockets of oil. That is the purpose of seismic exploration. For wind, I've never been on those seismic boats, but my understanding is that the explosions are less frequent and they don't last as long. They just don't have to be as loud. That's the other thing. They don't have to be as loud because they're just penetrating a very shallow area of the Earth's crust because they just are looking for sediment that they can put a stanchion in. I think your very own Andy Reid could give a better answer to that, but I think that's pretty close. Working on the oil rig seismic boats was terrifying to me. The noise, I mean, with earplugs in and headphones on, my organs were rattling when I was trying to sleep on that boat. And if I was 18 kilometers on land looking for whales, which is what my job was, I could still hear those explosions. It was just incredible how loud it is. And even that had, as far as I know, has never been documented to kill a whale. Change the behavior, yes, possibly to a lethal degree, it just hadn't been documented. Military mid-frequency sonar has been documented to kill some species of whales and one species of dolphin. So I just hesitate to generalize, you know, but sometimes science takes a while. Sometimes I feel like science isn't going to be good enough to save these animals. Because by the time we can answer your good questions, I'm afraid it's going to be too late. How's that for a buzzkill? Okay. Elias sperm whale came ashore on Cape Lookout. By the time we got there, it had died. This is the sperm whale. Blowhole there. This isn't the brain, this isn't the cranium, this is the spermaceti organ. There's a big, not bony, it's oil basically in the head. That's what whalers are after. Weird thing about deep divers, teeth only in the lower jaw is the norm. And in the case of sperm whales, those teeth fit in the sockets, and you can see the sockets there. Long story short, we just built a skeleton out of it, and this sort of launched the idea of a Bonehenge Whale Center, but the skeleton's on display at the North Carolina Maritime Museum. This is a sperm whale. I spend a fair amount of time offshore, and I work with acousticians who have hydrophones in the water to record whales. And so they told me that this clip is off North Carolina is 3 sperm whales. And I'm just like a 20-second clip. I just want you to listen to it. And if you're expecting repeating melodic humpback whale songs, you're gonna be very disappointed, but let's see if this works. We don't know what they're saying. We think it's really, really important. And these people who are studying this are learning crazy things that I would have never imagined possible. Not just that there are whales, but what species, not just what species, what sexes, not just what sexes, what ages. Can they count them? Do we need these multi-million-dollar cruises, or can we protect whales with passive hydrophones offshore? That's a field of study that's going to just take off because it holds a lot of promise. Whalers used to call them carpenter fish because those sounds to them sounded like hitting a nail with a hammer. A humpback whale, bottlenose dolphin. This is near Cape Lookout, near Beaufort. I've never seen a live humpback whale without bottlenose dolphins around it. I don't know what the relationship is, but it's pretty consistent. To me, it looks like the dolphins are just harassing the whale. They just seem annoying. And this is my favorite picture that my volunteer Paula Daly took from my boat, but she got the better pictures than I did. Anyway, this is a humpback feeding. That's Beaufort in the background, Shackelford Banks. And you can see the baleen in the humpback's upper jaw. And these are menhaden. an overfished fish being chased by an overwhelmed whale. Very inspiring picture to me, although the fish might not agree. These are the ones that, oh, those were the ones that got away. And for humpback whales, the fingerprint, the identifying feature generally, in most cases, is the ventral or bottom side of the tail, which is demonstrated here by a photo another volunteer of mine took. What do you think caused these marks or scars on the tail? Those long ones. Any guesses? Yes,
Fishing line.
yes, entanglement fishing line. That's evidence that this whale has survived an entanglement. One study documented a little over half the whales revealed evidence of having been entangled in our trash. This one survived it. Photo ID has taught us a lot. The migration between Cape Cod off North Carolina down to the Caribbean or down to Florida, depending on the species, is pretty well documented. But one notice I got from the biologist took a picture I had from North Carolina. The following summer, that humpback whale was in George's Bank off Cape Cod. That is predictable. That's normal. No surprise there. 13 years later, there's a film crew in Bermuda that took pictures of humpback whales, and that same whale was in Bermuda. Now, you may not care or think it's a big deal, but this was like, whoa, can that really happen? And so we do have some oh wow moments, which really teach us something about humpbacks. And now, I don't know if you read the whale news at all, but it's just like humpback whales are doing things we would never predict, as far as switching ocean basins and things like that. Maybe more normal than we thought. But photo ID is a big part of that. So dead humpback whale on the beach, and we want to know who this individual is, but it's pretty darn big and it's on its belly. How are we going to get to see the ventral, the bottom side of that tail? We beg or borrow or rent a backhoe, and we bring it to the beach. We cut the tail off, and we ask the backhoe operator to lift the tail in the air. I'm just going to walk you through that. So we cut the tail off, and the backhoe is lifting it. There's a hooks there. That's where we cut it off the body of the whale. I didn't mention, but I hope you understood the whale was dead. I am going to shrink. So that's the bottom of the tail. I'm going to shrink that picture and put it off to the right. I'm going to flip it upside down. Okay, you with me? You're going to play photo ID with me. I'm going to bring in John Russell's picture of the humpback whale off Shackleford Banks 5 years earlier. And I just want you to see if we have a match. We see these entanglement scars on both lobes of the tail. We see more dark there on the right side than we do on the left side. And the way it tapers, people smarter than I who do this more than I determine it is not a match. But darn, isn't that close? So there are some of us that just spend an embarrassing amount of time looking at photos and trying to identify individual whales. Just want to emphasize species diversity. And these are 3 different species of beaked whales that we see somewhat predictably off North Carolina. Pilot whales we can find fairly predictably off North Carolina. Killer whales. No one would ever associate North Carolina with orcas, also called killer whales. But one stranded alive in Kill Devil Hills, and this is it. And we've had multiple reliable sightings, but I've never seen a killer whale off North Carolina. I've just seen video and pictures. So there's not a lot of them. We don't know much about them, but they count. And when I say reliable, this diversity that I presented to you isn't my Uncle Peggy said he saw a blue whale. This is scientific cruises or stranding responses when we know we got the species right. And the real reason I wanted to bring up killer whales is to show you this. And this is the only picture that's not from North Carolina, but periodically I co-lead whale watch excursions in the Sea of Cortez. And if you ever wanted to be uncomfortably close to the biggest animal on Earth, The Sea of Cortez in February and March is just amazing. I don't think whalers ever discovered the Sea of Cortez. And so blue whales, if all else fails, you will get really close to blue whales. But on the last day of the last trip, the last hour of the last day, we were looking for beaked whales and we didn't find any. So we came home and on the way in, we saw killer whales, and it's kind of out of focus because it's just a screen grab from a video that my friend took. And so I'm just going to play that video for us. Anyway, Sea Cortez, that's out of North Carolina. I just had to show that to you. Many species of dolphins, and most people cannot distinguish them, and I'm no expert. You know, it really, you need a great photo or a great look to identify some of these species of dolphins. But I just want to emphasize diversity. In North Carolina, the only species of cetacean that you will see year-round from the beaches, docks, and piers are bottlenose dolphin, technically a small-toothed whale. I don't care if you correct the person on the dock next to you who says, oh, look at the porpoises. A lot of people call them porpoises, but what we are seeing are bottlenose dolphins. Porpoises are on our list for North Carolina, but I've never seen a live one, just dead ones, typically in the winter. And just a brief introduction to our North Carolina Marine Mammal Stranding Network and the organizations who have a leadership role in that. I don't know if I mentioned some of you or all of you that have neonate sperm whale came ashore. Yeah, I said that. And so, you know, the Marine Mammal Stranding Network kicks in, and this is an example. So the Park Service is being helpful with their heavy equipment to move a minke whale from the water onto the beach so that we can do what's called a necropsy, which is an autopsy on a non-human. I think I'm going to spare you all those photos. But I want to give you another example. We were sitting down at dinner and I got a phone call of a woman was jogging on the beach at Fort Macon, which is right near Beaufort, and she was jogging next to a humpback whale that was swimming in the ocean. My gosh, how mind-blowing would that be? And she watched the whale swim into a fishing net, get entangled, turn offshore, and take the net with it. And I looked at my wife, Vicky, and I said, listen, it's sun setting. I don't have any help. I'm not going to go looking for a needle in a haystack. I just don't want to go offshore tonight. But if someone calls in the morning, we'll go. And darn it, before dark, we didn't get a phone call from a fisher who said, hey, I got a whale entangled. I said, stay with it. He said, I got to get to work. I can't stay with it. I said, please stay with it. I'll be there in 20 minutes. And I was. And so he didn't, I didn't even talk to him. I waved, he went away, and my job wasn't to touch it. My job wasn't to get in the water or touch the gear. It was just to document it till I could get help. And so this is what I was able to document. It's a coastal monofilament gill net. These are the floats. It had at least one wrap around the body. The blowhole is there. The dorsal fin is there. It's swimming or entangled, but pointing in that direction. It was bleeding, it was injured, and that's a great look at the type of net that it was entangled in, and it was pretty horribly entangled. But right after I took this picture, something I didn't think was possible happened. The whale shed the gear by itself. I didn't touch the gear or the whale. It did a full body breach, super exciting, and I started to follow it to make sure it was not entangled anymore, and I wanted to get an ID photo. But then I realized that there was a net behind me that was going to entangle something else. If I don't get it, it's going to sink. So I called Doug and Andy at Duke and Vicky at Marine Fisheries, and I got some help. And I said, we got a net to pick up, and it's too big for my boat. So they came out, we picked up the net. Meanwhile, when I was with this whale, I get a call from someone from Marine Fisheries that said, Keith, there's a pissed off fisherman here. Someone stole his net off Fort Macon. And I said, I think I'm with the thief. The fisherman did nothing wrong. No fines. Yeah, it was a legal net. But the law dictates that he doesn't have to stay with his net. I think that's a problem for conservation. But he was able to confirm that we recovered all the net, which made me feel like the whale was free of gear. So that, an example of what I would think is a success story, although the whale would disagree. A couple shots of good shot of two blowholes. The whale swimming away, the two blowholes, dorsal fin, But I didn't get a very good ID photo. But the whale researchers looked at that and they didn't have a match, so they did not know the individual whale. It looked like juvenile to me, maybe a yearling. So it makes sense that they wouldn't know it. This is for Ari. Ari's been in the Bonehenge Whale Center a lot. She just loves the story and the work, and I don't blame her because I do too. Pitfall is a 37-foot, 3-year-old humpback whale that came ashore dead. And that's it. And it's on its back. It's starting to bloat. And this is its tongue being pushed out of its mouth from the bloating and other mouth tissues. But flipper, tail is there. The next picture I'm going to show you is the same whale, same day, same beach, just from the tail end. And that's it. The genital opening, the anus, and we can see the ventral side of the tail, the fingerprint. And the humpback whales who came to the beach humpback whale researchers who came to the beach that day said, oh my gosh, that's Spider's 3-year-old daughter, Pitfall. And it was. They knew the individual from photo ID. Okay, here we go again. You gonna play photo ID with me? This is that tail of the dead whale upside down on the beach. Quiz. 50-50 chance to get this right. Is this lobe of the tail the right side or the left side? All right, everyone agree? Say left, say right. It's the right side. It's upside down. It's confusing. That's my point. I'm not picking on you. Anyway, that's the right side of the whale because it's upside down. And this is a picture of it 1 month before it was killed. And you can see that black encroaching into the white, and the dark black and the white and the dark bold black, and these 3 very light black scars. That's the features people use to study whales. And what's up here? There's the black encroaching on the white, bold black, white, bold black, and those 3 light scars that were there are here. This whale swimming away from the boat, and it's putting its tail in the air. So it's a match. And then that's how the researcher knew it was Pitfall, Spider's 3-year-old daughter, because its birth season was known, possibly its birth month, and a little bit about association. So this has a story before it died, which is kind of unusual. Those are all the bones of that whale. Flipper, the scapula. This is my friend Bruce lying next to it for scale. It's a big girl. Terrific necropsy was done by a veterinarian named Michael Moore, associated with Woods Hole Oceanographic. And he figured out the cause of death, hit by a ship and killed. The ship strike broke its skull in 2 pieces. That's the break right there. Exposed the brain, probably died instantly. It broke its right lower jaw in 2 pieces. You can't really tell there. It destroyed his right eye socket. I mean, it was a devastating blow. It would have been weaned by then, but it was a known individual. So we're putting this together and want to tell the story, not just the tragedy of a ship strike, but a little bit about photo ID and biology and reproduction in humpback whales. Yes.
Yeah. Do you know how fast these ships have to be going? Although I guess it varies by whale.
The question was how fast do these ships need to be going? Very smart people are trying to figure that out. I think most people who study and try to answer that question agree slowing ships down to 10 miles an hour will save large whales. It's not an easy sell. I heard Megan update me if you know something different, that NOAA just gave up on trying. It was just so controversial to try to enforce a 10-mile-an-hour speed limit to there's a speed limit now that's enforceable in some cases, but anyway, they wanted to expand it to include more of North Carolina, more seasons, more areas. And it pretty much failed, and it just hits us hard when that happens. 10 miles an hour would help. Some of them are huge and fast, and they're getting huger and faster. Someone has a good answer to that. I don't, thanks for asking. Keep asking. Yeah.
You said you don't really know exactly what the whales are saying, but is there a way that you could like, is there a known sound for like a broad set of whales that would deter them from moving away? So like if you had like
Right.
at like channel like markers for like shipping lanes, like if you were to emit a sound to like push them. in the
Right,
opposite
right,
direction,
um,
it's like, is that like impossible?
I think that line of research has been abandoned, but Andy Reid would know because he was involved with that research, I think. It wasn't either working, or how many dead whales did you have to document before you found out it wasn't working? And I think the success story of whistles on cars to chase deer out of the road at night up in Maine was a kind of a success that kind of works. Wasn't working for whales, and people try to explain to me why. If they're so good about sound, why can't they hear a ship and get out of the way? I mean, it's almost common sense to us, and the way it's explained to me, go ahead.
So I had just it's not documented, but I thought about maybe if, since so many whales are terrified of orcas, if we could find a way to reproduce orca calls and stop like how they do with naval sonar, to see if the response is swimming away very quickly.
That would be brilliant. That'd be great. I know orca calls have been reproduced and played back underwater. Yeah, learn more about that and teach me. Yeah, really, I mean, I don't think that's being done in the case of right whale conservation. Imagine a whale, and most of these ship strikes that we document at least are in shipping channels. So imagine a whale hears a large ship, and they're really noisy. I mean, it's not hard to hear. You don't hear them on the surface as much as you do underwater. It's loud. Problem is, there's 18, 20, 25 large ships in the area. So first they have to recognize it as a threat. Then they have to figure out which one it is. It would just be downright terrifying. You wouldn't know where to go from our perspective. We don't know the whale's perspective, but we think that's one of the challenges is that one, they have to perceive it as a threat, and they didn't evolve with these noises in the ocean. So they, in terms of evolution, they aren't prepared behaviorally or physiologically to respond to something so loud, so big, so fast. Slowing ships down if we can. But, and I learned this from going to the public meetings, we slow ships down. One, it'll put people out of business. All those people that want to take fishing trips out to the Gulf Stream and back in one day. To me, so freaking what? But anyway, your Nikes from China will cost more and take longer to get to you. Your seafood from Norway won't be as fresh, cost more and take longer to get to you. A year ago, I would proudly brag to you about what a deal I found on Amazon, and I got it in 3 days. I'm not so proud anymore. And I know it doesn't matter, but I choose the slower shipping method, because I want it to make a difference. Help us figure out how we can make a difference as individuals. And are you willing to pay more to save a whale? Don't answer that because it's a hard choice, because most people can't. Yes.
Where are the ears on a whale?
Oh, boy. Oh, wow. Wait a second. Oh, I hope I have one. No, I'll work on that later. There. You just want a whale pencil. And I just destroyed my pointer. I got so excited. We'll get to that. Okay. This is why we don't know how bad this problem is. This is a Royal Caribbean cruise ship coming into a Canadian port. It did not know it had a dead whale on its bow. This is a public relations nightmare. The boat very likely did nothing illegal, no consequences. It was alerted that it had a dead whale on the bow, slow down. It was identified as a fin whale, dragged off and estimated to be 60 feet long, very large whale, taken offshore and sunk. No necropsy. You might reasonably say, so what, Keith? The cause of death is obvious. But what the veterinarians are teaching me is no, Keith, the cause of death is not obvious. Maybe the ship hit a dead whale. Maybe it had underlying conditions. We will never know if we can't do a necropsy. I'm not being critical. I understand the logistics and the expense to do that. But this is why we don't know how bad this problem is. But the reality is, wherever there's a lot of shipping, especially in the shipping channels, Chesapeake Bay is a whale strike hotspot. This, I know many cases on the East Coast, this has happened. One was a live whale, it was alive still, while it's on the bow of the boat. LA is worse. Sri Lanka, Brazil, places we've never heard of. Anywhere there's a lot of shipping, this is the roadkill. But we really don't know how bad it is. Oh, I just got this off the web. I can't even tell you much about this. Big collaboration, but I want to emphasize this. That is one satellite tagged right whale. Megan, if you know the source of this, you can speak up. And these are ships. And I'm going to start the animation. All right, with me? It's about a 15-second animation. The right whale is moving close to shore like they always do. It's amazing. Any of them make it. It made it. But this animation would suggest otherwise. Anyway. It's terrifying to me. This is another live sperm whale came ashore in North Carolina, in Avon. Young female died on the beach. Like the other one I showed you, teeth only in the lower jaw, sockets in the upper jaw. And she was really skinny. And that would raise a red flag, and it did. And the next slide is going to show you what was found in her digestive system, primarily in her esophagus. And that's it. You recognize this stuff. There's rope of various diameters and lengths, plastic bags, plastic film, maybe once was bags. This is an air bladder. That's a hard plastic valve. I can't think of what that might be other than something you might put in your kayak for buoyancy. This is alarming to me, but I just don't want you to, I don't want to lead you to believe this is typical. This is the most extreme case in North Carolina that I'm aware of. But oh wow to me, the point I want to make about this is we're finding more plastic more of the time in deep divers than we are in shallow divers. And I just didn't see that coming. Bottlenose dolphins swim close to shore, swim through trash every day. You know, if there's trash in something, you'd expect it there, and we just don't find it. And when we do, the veterinarian generally says, this plastic didn't contribute to its death. It had this, and this wrong with it. But anyway, I just wanted to present you with that, because if I think of plastic, I think of it as floating. And when we work to clean up the marshes and the rivers and the ocean, we're scooping up stuff on the surface. These animals aren't feeding near the surface. As far as we know, they're diving deep and feeding deep. What? So Greg Merrill at the Marine Lab is doing some cutting edge work to try to figure out why this is happening. It's not just in North Carolina. It seems to be in most of the earth. Yes.
What do you do with the whale carcasses once you're done analyzing? Because don't they contribute a lot to like the nutrients of the
Thanks.
floor?
Yeah.
I forget what the term for it is.
Whale fall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The question was, what do we do with the carcass after necropsy? If it has been euthanized, like this young sperm whale today, we can't leave it on the beach. We can't put it in the ocean. That's toxins. It'll be secondary toxicity. I would not have thought of this, but the veterinarians do. So it has to be buried very deep or taken to a landfill. If it's not euthanized, which is most of them, if it's not a national park, we can leave it on the beach. No one's going to complain. If it's in Nag's Head or Emerald Isle, they'll freak out because they don't want anyone to smell it or know anything dies in the ocean. We have to get rid of it. And so we asked the town to come bury it. But whenever possible, I put it on my boat, take it offshore and dump it. Because we figured that's where it belongs. But I can't do that if it's been euthanized. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that one because that one I could answer. All right. A whale isn't just a whale. Wait a second, this is my other mystery marine object. The hell is that? So, our last large whale that stranded was a humpback whale that came ashore at Kitty Hawk. Oh, wait, that wasn't supposed to happen. Okay, we're gonna go there. This is a gray whale breeding lagoon in Baja, California. And you can pay money and get on a boat and get crazy close to gray whales and touch them. You might have varying opinions about it. I was very against it. Now I'm not. But they have a lot of barnacles and lice on them. And that's what you're seeing in this picture. A tourist getting very close to a whale and reaching out, but you see that gray whale skin full of barnacles. All those circular things are barnacles, but between those barnacles are these lice. So this is like a whole community on this gray whale. Okay. Our local bottlenose dolphins. You see them swimming around, and often, especially in the fall, they've got dreads on their dorsal fin. What are these things flopping around the dorsal fin? They're barnacles called xenobalanus. Xeno for traveler or foreigner, balanus for whale. They've been documented on probably 20-something species of whales. Hang on. This is one. And I'm going to blow up that, and I'm going to replace the picture with the blow up. So that one of those plucked off a fresh dead dolphin, the barnacles were still alive, are these xenobalanus barnacles. And that's what I'm passing around. You with me? This is for Ari too. This is our most recent stranding. Humpback whale, Kitty Hawk. It's on its back, starting to bloat. This is its chin. What's on its chin? Not just barnacles, but gooseneck barnacles growing on top of acorn barnacles, but not just that. These are whale lice growing on the barnacles on the whale. It is a whole community. It's not just a whale, it's a mobile home. And if we can learn more about these barnacles, they will teach us a lot about these whales that we don't know. Yes.
Are all these barnacles and lice, are they parasitic, or do some of them not really?
Are they all parasitic? It's complicated. Because I think, and a parasitologist would argue with me, I'm sure, to be called parasitic, it has to get nutrition from the whale body itself. And I don't think in any of these cases that is happening. They're getting nutrition. They're taking advantage of the whale as its mobile home, but getting nutrition out of the water. So in that sense, I don't think they would be called parasites. I think it'd be called epibionts or a commensal relationship. Someone feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. Thanks for asking. Oh, I almost through, hang in there. Bottlenose dolphins in Beaufort. And not sure why I wanted to show you this because I like the picture, I guess. Oh, yes, I'm going to get back to his question. Yes. Where are their ears? Okay. So, whose laptop is this?
Mine.
Okay.
But
Now or after the talk, I really encourage you to get up close to this. This is the skull of a bottlenose dolphin. It came ashore dead. We knew the individual while it was alive. We had actually captured it, tagged it, and released it. But that doesn't matter. It's an adult male, and we cleaned up the skull and rearticulated it. And we think their world is sound. They have eyes, but we think that sound is more important. And the sound, they don't have to open their mouths to talk. They don't have vocal cords. That sounds like a dolphin. I'm just squishing air under my tongue. As far as we know, they squish air back and forth in air sinuses in the vicinity of the blowhole to create the sounds. And a dolphin skull doesn't have a snout like this. It's a pretty short snout. But what sits here is an organ called the melon, M-E-L-O-N. I'm gonna keep looking at you because you asked a good question. And most people agree that that melon serves to modulate the sound, focus, amplify it. Kind of like a magnifying glass can focus and amplify light. This can focus and amplify sound, but it can move and it changes shape. I don't understand how it all works. There are no muscles there. There are no bones there. It's just the melon. But they use air to change the shape, and it's very evident, especially in beluga whales, when they're making a sound, whistle or whatever, you see what looks like a forehead moving around. They're manipulating the sound they create. Okay, if sound is so important to this guy, how is he hearing? Where are his ears? No whales have external ears. No whales have ear bones above the jaws like any mammal I can think of. Step right up here. I'm going to pick on you. You got a pencil for it, so you can do this. Okay, my try to do this without screwing up. Oh, hello. Put your finger on that. That's its left ear. Put your finger on the right ear. Okay, thank you. Relax. Okay.
Do you need me more?
No, that's, I just wanted you to be able to experience that. These ears are positioned where these megaphones of a lower jaw open up. These megaphones of a lower jaw are hollow all the way to the tip. They're filled with fatty tissue. Biologists call it acoustic fat that does really well at focusing and amplifying sound. And I don't know if this is going to work. I'm going to try it. Never done it this way. It is so thin, you can see my thumb right through the bone. I mean, these are fragile, fragile bones. And I think anyone who studies at least toothed whale acoustics agree that most or all of the hearing are through these lower jaws. Okay, that's the answer to your question. If you tend toward the geeky, you're welcome to look into the brain case and actually see where the acoustic nerves go, and that's a huge hole for the acoustic nerve. And where the optic nerve goes, it's a tiny hole. That also informs us that hearing might be pretty important to this animal. I'm going to play about a 20-second sound clip of bottlenose dolphins I recorded off of Shackleford Banks with an underwater microphone, a hydrophone. I want you to listen for three things. Listen for whistles, flowing sounds. Those have been characterized as signature whistles. One dolphin will emit the same sound for most or all of its life. Like, I'm Keith, I'm Keith, I'm Keith. Listen for echolocation clicks. People liken it to sonar, to perceive its environment. And they're pulsed sounds, not like the whistles. Sometimes it sounds like a squeaky screen door. And I think I got what's called the Big Bang, which is a sound so powerful, so loud, some people believe that they could stun or kill a fish. There's terrific video evidence of that. I think it's true, but I don't know what more proof we need. But anyway, it's always preceded by echolocation clicks. So I want you to listen for, well, the Big Bang sounds like a cap gun or a distant gunshot. But it's always preceded by echolocation clicks. So what you're going to hear is okay. And at the risk of you falling sound asleep, I want to invite you to close your eyes for 20 seconds and really listen to these sounds. Let's see if this works. I call that the dolphin's greatest hits because every sound I've ever heard of make is in that little sound clip. That's quite a repertoire, way different than the sperm whale. That sound clip is on the Bonehenge website, or you can text me and I'll zap it to you. You can make it your ringtone. You might do that. I'm gonna briefly show you, the most common cause of death we can determine in our bottlenose dolphins. And yeah, this isn't easy to take, but it's entanglement. And it's always young dolphins and it's lethal entanglements. And they're entangled when they're still nursing. And we've seen this over and over again. I'm just very briefly going to present you with 3 cases. This is a young one, came ashore dead, had monofilament line wrapped around both jaws. It was cutting into the skin. The skin was healing around it. We prepared the skull, and this shows something a little different. It's not cutting into the bone, but the bone is actually growing over and around the entangling line that was slowly killing it. Veterinarians looked at this. The term they use is called remodeling when bone does this, and they think it represents about a year of growth. So this dolphin got entangled when it was around 6 months old and lived till about a year and a half before it finally succumbed. Another case, this one is a monofilament gill net wrapped around the upper jaws of a young bottlenose dolphin. This is actually an MRI of that, and you can just see the horrible damage, and this is the prepared skull. This one is being used for education up at Jeanette's Pier. I'm very proud of them, great work. This one's at the Smithsonian. There's no question about what tortured this dolphin. And what makes it worse is that they're all young, still nursing dolphins. And then the one we worked on this week came ashore near Harker's Island. This is I think, CT scan, and it showed that the line had actually cut the upper jaws off completely. And this is what we got out of our compost pile on Tuesday or Monday, showing the damage. So we're going to prepare that and use that for education as well. But this just reflects the most common cause of death we can determine. And as already mentioned in the intro, as a result of this, we started what Florida has done really well, I believe, educate people and put these up. And now you'll see these in North Carolina. I hope it makes a difference. Might not make a difference fast enough, but we've collected thousands of miles of line. We started in 2007. This is the thousands of miles, estimated miles by the thousands that we've collected since then. I hope it makes a difference, trying to learn ways to recycle it if possible, but the important thing to me is to get it off the beaches and out of the environment. Because there are some people who aren't like us, who really either don't care or don't know better, and we just need to get to them, and just not in a mean way, just try to get them to stop throwing the line in the water and on the beaches. Emerald Isle, have you heard of it? It's on the coast, very close to Duke Marine Lab. I can tell you an Emerald Isle story. Got a call from a woman who was standing next to a live dolphin on the beach, she said. And we said, send a photo, and she did. And this is the photo she sent in. It's alive when she took this photo. But I can tell it's not a dolphin. It's too big. The pectoral fins are way too small, and she has no erupted teeth. It's a gervais-beaked whale. You've never heard of it, but it's North Carolina wildlife. And we see them offshore, and they strand periodically. And by the time we got there, it had died. And it was small enough we could put it in the back of the truck, take it to NC State's Marine Lab, CMAST, which is just a terrific place to do a necropsy. And the necropsy revealed the cause of death. She looked pretty darn healthy in this picture. Of course, she was alive, not skinny, no entanglement, no boat strikes. But this was the oh wow moment. This is the oh wow photo. At the opening to the stomach was this. And it wasn't evident what that was at this point, but we took it out and it was that, a mylar balloon. And I just grabbed this off the internet to emphasize what we're talking about. There was no food in the stomach, no fish parts, no squid beaks, which is what we like to find in their stomachs. There was mother's milk, and that's it. And this balloon blocked any other mother's milk from getting into that nursing calf. No sign of mom. That do this without screwing up. This is literally this. Okay, I rinse it off and it doesn't stink anymore, it's dry. But this is all it took to kill that nursing whale. I have many other examples. This is just what I wanted to show you. I don't know why balloon releases are legal. I really don't. So someone maybe can explain it to me. Why isn't it littering? Florida just banned it statewide. I'm proud of them. Why do they have to? The town of Beaufort just banned mass balloon releases or even single balloon releases. Bravo, I have goosebumps over that. Why do they have to? Okay. This happened October 2023. That same month, the city of Greenville, North Carolina failed to approve by vote a ban on mass balloon releases. It didn't pass. Do we really have to argue about this? Currituck County, north of us, it didn't pass. What? How clueless am I? So the students of Greenville just yesterday, they invited me to give a talk. I'm honored to do it. It was the second time I did it. They want to hear this story. They want to take this to the masses. What's up with North Carolina, especially Greenville? They do it a lot. People are sending me these videos of balloon releases. It drives me nuts. I'm just the messenger here. I want to tell you what two politicians told me during my presentation. One said, Keith, people use balloon releases to grieve. I don't want to take that away from my constituents. You know, as a caring person, probably a good politician. And I, you know, as politely as I could, I told her this makes some of us grieve. How does it make you feel? But I can't make enemies here. You know, I really have to help them understand and not and be on their side. Another one raised her hand and said, can't we just ban balloon releases along the coast, but still do it in Greenville? Yeah, that can make you laugh, but she's pretty confident that they all go to heaven. And I want you all and me, and I mean, I want to emphasize that they don't. And I've already shown you two examples, that sperm whale and this, and it's a problem. The reason I'm clinging to this, and not just because it's REITs and local, but because I think this is a problem that we can solve in our lifetimes. I really do. It might not fix the problem if we ended balloon releases tomorrow, but it'll help and we would feel good about it. We need to feel good about something. You would have been entertained if you visited the Bonehenge Whale Center about 2 months ago. My volunteers have been collecting balloons out of the marshes, off the beaches, off the water for months. They had about 60 of them. And they put them in a box with a real nice letter and mailed them to the mayor of Greenville, North Carolina. And I just love that style of activism, and you can do it too, with a really nice letter, not being critical, just saying, we are disappointed with the results in your vote on October 9th. And we hope with this new information, if it's voted again, the result will be different. And the new information is on a flyer that they're taking to the Dollar Generals and the wedding venues and the funeral homes and the pet stores, offering alternatives, throw flower petals, blow bubbles, light candles, you know. Question or comment?
Do we know if it's like, are they mistaking the balloons for fish, or is it more like when they're feeding in like, or in the motion of going after a fish, that they just like, you know, they accidentally take it in?
Doug Merle's trying to Greg Merle's at the Marine Lab's trying to figure that out. If they're mistaking it for food,
If it's like shiny, it might look like a fish.
yeah, or if they're just taking it incidentally. If you spend any time on a boat on the water in the ocean, you probably notice pretty soon that anything floating will attract marine wildlife. It could be a 2x4, a dead whale, you know, or a piece of plastic. And you see this marine wildlife, little fish, sometimes a turtle. And if the same thing happens at depth, I and Greg and others are wondering, are the whales targeting the potential prey that are associating with the plastic and incidentally taking the plastic? There's a lot that's not known about deep divers, and their feeding method is pretty strange because some of them don't have any erupted teeth. So we think they're suction feeders. And that's a whole nother lecture. But anyway, stay tuned. Or if you get to the Marine Lab, ask for Greg Merrill, tell him Keith sent you. And this is the last thing I want to mention. I'm sorry I've gone so long, but I love your questions. I would hate to stop those questions. A new species of whale that you probably haven't heard of, but its common name is Rice's whale. And I'm just going to spend 4 or 5 slides just walking you through this whole thing. It was a species that many scientists thought might have been a new species because of its range, its behavior, and its appearance. We have been calling it the Gulf of Mexico Brutus whale for decades. And we've never had a complete skeleton because they're a tropical whale and they sink when they die. And we've tried to collect skeletons and we failed for a variety of reasons. So in 2019, when a live one came ashore in the Everglades, everyone who was curious about this whale, had been studying it and trying to recover bones, finally said, oh my gosh, this is the one. We're going to collect it, study it. It's going to be a whole type of new species if it is a new species, but we can't figure it out if we don't have the skeleton. Genetics is helpful, but it won't serve alone. We need a skeleton. Wow, you see that catch? So it died, not euthanized, it died, dragged to a boat ramp. Terrific necropsy was performed by Denise Boyd, and this is that whale, still called the Gulf of Mexico Brutus whale. Upside down, that's a baleen in the upper jaw, and the cause of death was determined. In its stomach was a hard piece of plastic that cut the stomach wall, and it looked like it was from a bucket, like a piece of a 5-gallon bucket. I can't describe it any other way. And while this was happening, I got calls from the Smithsonian and NOAA Fisheries. Keith, this is happening. I said, you want me to go down there and help? They said, no, I want you to stay right there. Will you please prepare these bones for the Smithsonian so they can be studied? Huh? And no one was around to temper my enthusiasm, so I said, sure. And you probably smelled this from here, but they put the entire stinky, rotten thing on a truck. Long story short, it ended up in Beaufort where we built a big compost pile for this 40-foot whale, hay, wood chips, and horse manure. And for 6 months, the compost and the dermestid beetles and other things associated with it got the flesh off. And these are the volunteers and biologists. Some marine lab students are here, and this is the result. It worked. And this is the yet to be studied, possibly new species of whale, and it became Rice's whale, named after Dale Rice. Kind of a big rollout that there's a new species of whale on Earth, and it's endemic to US waters. That means it doesn't live anywhere else. And it's really endangered, like more endangered than right whales. Like one estimate is 50-something. If it goes extinct, it's on us. No one else. We can't blame anyone else. If it survives, it's us. And we want people to know about this species desperately. This, I hope I brought enough for everyone. I might have. Take one, pass them around. I have more, actually. You have one already?
Yes,
Okay, you can take 2 if you want.
I have 2 in my room.
Oh my gosh, where'd you get them?
Went to the museum.
Bonehenge.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Anyway, this kind of summarizes what we know about it. Shout out to everyone who's contributed to everything I presented. One thing I love about North Carolina is as far as I can tell, I mean, just about all the researchers play well together, communicate well, share data, work side by side. And I've worked in a lot of places, Alabama, Alaska, California, Texas. It's not that way in other places. When I need something from fisheries or from Duke, I get it so fast and I do the same thing back. And I'm just so really proud of North Carolina whale biologists for working together like that. So they're on here funding organizations, and this isn't just a courtesy. We really depend on each other and we need each other. We know it. And I heard, it was on Facebook, so it must be true, that if you have a Protect Wild Dolphins license plate on your car, not only will you look better and sexier, your car will go faster and last longer, and you'll be supporting what I presented to you. And we get $20 for every one of these plates that are on the road. And we get checks for like about $12,000 a year. It's the only consistent source of funding we have. So My thing is not to have a vanity plate on my car. I'm just not that kind of person. But this is a pretty good fundraiser. Thank you. I'm sorry I went so long. You're all been great. And I'm not in a hurry. I mean, I don't know. Whenever it kicks me out, I'm leaving. But I'm glad to be here. If you want to handle anything or learn more, feel free. That you haven't tried barnacle talente. It's the latest.
So yummy.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yes, thank you for keeping track of it. Yeah. Smarter people than I have. And it's really hard to tease out because we're screwing so many things up simultaneously. The most striking example is in that infographic about right whales. Zero births in 2008, 2018 and 18.